Hello, and today we're going to be talking about the black vote and Biden and Harris. Do they deserve the black vote? I would say no. I would say no Democrat, or almost no Democrat, deserves the black vote. There probably are some individuals who actually do care, but for the most part, I think Democrats have they dangle a carrot and now they just expect your vote. Like you can see it when Biden said, um, like you ain't black if you don't vote for me. He so expects you to vote that he actually controls uh, the color of your skin. Like it's just weird. You ain't black if you don't vote for me. I'm pretty sure black is just a skin tone, and I thought that's what we were trying to move towards, is that black is a skin tone. But this whole stereotype, and blacks enforce it. Like, blacks enforce it more than anybody else. They talk out of both sides of their mouth, and we'll see that Democrats do too. And this is something they have in common. Blacks often don't vote in their best benefit. Like they don't vote for their prosperity. They vote according to the stereotype and the whole indoctrination, um, how they've been indoctrinated to vote, and not to think for themselves. And the blacks that do think for themselves are quote unquote no longer black, right? So, and I'm sure a lot of you enforce this stereotype as well. Um, it's unfortunate because the whole stereotype of being black, like there was um, it was about a Proud Boys, and there was a black Proud Boy, right? And I know the whole like white supremacist thing, but it's not a white supremacist group. It's not. If you even look into it, like one of their main leaders is a black guy. So, and there's also Cubans. There's all kinds. It's not. It has nothing to do with color. That's never been there. But this guy said the only thing that was black about this black dude who was a Proud Boy was that he got arrested, which shows the ignorance of he doesn't know what Proud Boys are or anything about them. But then in his mind, to be black is to be a criminal, to get arrested, and they don't care if it really doesn't matter if someone's innocent or not. Like if a police officer shoots someone, then like we see now that they riot. But then when the video comes out that they actually drew a gun, like all of a sudden, like it's still he's still innocent. They shouldn't have shot him. Like most of you would have shot him. That's the thing. And most of you shoot people, like not most of you, but a lot of you in the hood. Like there's a lot of dudes that walk around that would shoot people for much less. And and I know this personally, and I know people as well who live that life, who know other, like they know people, like there's people walking around with bodies, like how people always talk about like the school shootings and stuff, like the white kids, like the difference between a black mass shooter and a white mass shooter is that the white kid gets angry and shoots up the school, like the black kid gets angry and shoots up the block in the store, and like it's a constant thing. But instead of being caught after the school shooting or killing themselves, right? They they actually just walk around. There's tons of shooters. There's people that you probably know who have bodies and they're still out walking. But I digress. So let's talk about Biden first. Um, this is from Real Clear Politics, and it's Biden defends 1994 crime bill as Trump rights its wrongs. Poverty, prison, and parole. Repeat. It's a vicious cycle of Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden helped perpetuate by co-sponsoring the 1994 crime bill and has yet to repent for. Even as President Trump tries to right its wrongs in a bipartisan push, because he's with that. He may not have started it, but he's the one that's helping see it come through, push through, and people are actually being freed for nonviolent crimes, like marijuana and stuff like that they got arrested for, and now they're starting to get freed because of the bill that he helped push through, which is, I mean, it's good. And that's another thing I don't like. You got talk about systemic racism, but here's a president who's actually pushing back against systemic racism and pushing bills through that even Democratic presidents would have been like, they would have gave it lip service, like, oh, think about it, but they never would have pushed it through. So it's important to take this fact into account, that President Trump is actually fighting systemic racism. See, and then Joe Biden said this about the bill: "We do everything but hang people for jaywalking in this bill." Then Senator Biden said in 1992, urging its passage. Indeed, the 1994 crime bill led to mass incarceration rates across America, especially within African American and Latino communities. By incentivizing states to raise mandatory minimum sentencing and build new prisons, it includes a 3-strike provision that dictates life sentences for criminals after 2 or more prior convictions, including drug crimes. So, in the early 1970s, about 100 out of every 100,000 U.S. residents were incarcerated, whereas after the bill was passed, that number spiked 387,000 or 100,478, something like that, and 655 per 100,000 residents in the years 1994, 2000s, and 2016, respectively, according to an analyst by the Washington Post. The bill was also discontinued the use of Pell Grants for inmates, a means by which they receive federal funding for tuition and educational supplies while in prison. The grants helped prepare inmates for life after incarceration, to break out of poverty, to escape the cycle of reoffending. How that works, I don't know, but we do have to do something. Like, that is important to train someone for after they get out of prison so they don't come back. And, if this bill hurt that, then it is actually, I mean, you can say it's hurting blacks disproportionately, because, I mean, yeah, like already going in poor and then coming up, like, you could make the argument. But there's other, but let's continue before I get bogged down in. A year after the bill passed, the number of inmates who received post-secondary education plummeted 44%, according to a study published by the Ithaca S+R and a higher education nonprofit. I guess it's not it's a higher education. Democrats and the president alike have chastised Biden for the role he played in shepherding the legislation through Congress and as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and for continuing to defend it to this day. Let's see, Senator Cory Booker. He's not much better, but called the bill a stunning mistake. Because most of the Democrats, they pay a lip service, and the only reason they're saying something now is because at the time they were running against Joe Biden, and they thought they had a presidential hope that the presidential are running and becoming the candidate, and they didn't. But while they were, even Kamala Harris was trying to paint Joe as a racist till now, when she's running with him. So, but called the bill a stunning mistake. Senator Kamala Harris from California said it contributed to mass incarceration in our country, and she's even admitting it. But we'll see here in a minute that she too contributed to mass incarceration, in her state, and she's she's known for coming down hard on blacks and giving them the maximum the maximum set of time and being harsh. But we'll see. And it's not from a right-leaning source at all. And South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg commented that he hoped those who were behind the '94 crime bill would do it differently if they had a chance to do it again. Indeed, even President Clinton, which is funny that it was mostly Democrats who helped sign. It wasn't all Democrats, but it was, yeah. The president at the time was a Democrat, Joe Biden, who signed the measure into law, apologized for its failures in 2015 and admitted it worsened the nation's criminal justice system by increasing prison sentences. I'm trying to read, but not Biden. He denied that the bill's earmarking of funding for states to build more jail cells, curb parole, and enact harsher mandatory minimum sentences led to mass incarceration. Let me see. At an event in New Hampshire, he flatly claimed the bill he sponsored did not generate mass incarceration and told a voter they were conditioned to say the crime bill is a bad bill. He cast blame on the states for the spike in incarceration rates and has used misleading figures to defend his stance. The only aspect of the bill Biden has admitted was hurtful was the three-strike provision. He hasn't yet spoken publicly on the bill's denial of Pell Grants to prisoners, nor has he proposed any meaningful prison reform on the campaign. So, I mean, I'm going to post this down in the description section so you can read the full article. But let's move on to Kamala Harris. And this is Afro-punk. And this is not right by any leanings. And it likes to promote itself as a black kind of news outlet, I guess you could say. Okay, so a couple of months ago, I was chilling at my partner's house. That's what it says. POTNA, watching football. During a commercial break, we started talking about Kamala Harris. And my partner's older cousin shouted, "Kamala Harris, she been locking niggas up at Renee," referring to the Oakland courthouse, since way back in the day, and was doing it with a smile on her face. He wasn't wrong. Kamala Harris has spent her career as the district attorney of Alameda County, San Francisco, and as the attorney general, aka the top cop of California. As some from the Bay Area and living in Oakland, I am someone from the Bay Area living. I don't know why I'm reading. So I am constantly reminded of her history of locking black people in the Bay Area. Her track record consists of terrorizing black communities through the prison industrial complex, as she has consistently shown herself to be an enemy to the masses of black people. So, like, this is what I'm talking about. She talks, like, if you hear her talk, she'll come up with all these civil rights things. But in her own career, she has prided herself on terrorizing the black community. And this is from this site. Like, I don't agree with everything this site says. Like, some of the ideas of, like, punishments and stuff. But this is how they view her. So, while I admit the symbol of having a black woman as president, which she's only, like, it's not very much black. But anyway, sounds nice, it doesn't exclude Kamala from being critiqued. I operated under a political belief that there are no good presidents. Presidents are just figureheads for the white supremacist settler colonial state. Clearly not a right leaning one. Yeah, so this is very left. I aim to have a principled critique of her record that advances black political thought, which honestly, if this is black political thought, it's not very good, but we just going, it's because the indoctrination is mostly from communist Marxist left, which it's aimed at controlling. But that's another video. We could talk about that. There's a whole lot we could talk about that. Yet Twitter has been full of misogynist critiques of Kamala. It is important that we critique her while avoiding misogyny. Misogynaire? I don't know. As there is no place for misogyny in the black liberation movement, which just means that it's just a bunch of propaganda and it's just political. It's garbage. It means it's been hijacked. Like if this is black thought, like you gotta rethink this garbage. Some of the points she make fair points, but at the same time, like a lot of it is really just duck political correctness, cultural Marxism. Uh, whether it was declining to advocate for legalization of marijuana in California, in which black people are arrested at high rates, or her failure to support body cameras for the police, which I support body cameras for the police. Like there's no reason not to while they're working, and it not only will it clear them, but it also will show their misconduct if there is any. It gives us a clear view of what happened. So, and legalizing weed I'm not against legalizing weed. I don't smoke it or I don't do nothing with weed, but you know, if you can drink alcohol, you should be able to smoke weed. While simultaneously opposing legislation that would require her office to independently investigate police shootings, Kamala Harris is not for the people. She has defended the three-strike law, in which black people are incarcerated at a rate 12 times higher than whites. Kamala Harris, and there's more reasons. It's not just because they're black. There's some, like, once I start doing these these criminal articles, like I actually got some good stuff for y'all coming up. Now that I figured out how stay on part. I just get excited. So, not value black lives. So let's see. Kamala Harris has demonstrated through her actions that she does not value black lives, but rather supports our death via the carceral state. Kamala supports support of the death penalty, which is a modern day of lynching. No, death penalty is not everything is about blacks and whites. Death penalty is actually something that is needed. Once you understand the criminal mind more, you'll see that the death penalty is actually needed. But it's only on certain, like murder, for certain kinds of murder, like the death penalty should be relatively, like you know, they get charged, they go to court, and then maybe 2 weeks, and for that 2 weeks you assign detectives, and they go, as hard as they can, and but especially in things that are just blatantly, like there's video, you see everything, they murdered people, like, because nowadays there's more and more video of murders, and those people who are for sure, we know that was them, like, they should be put on, like, they should get charged, and then 2 weeks later be put to death, either by some kind of, like, firing squad, because now we have robots, and no one actually, except for, like, one person instead of a whole. But that's different, just to set a standard, and only for very specific crimes. So, lynching has executed hundreds of innocent people. Hundreds is not that bad, actually. I know that people think like if you're that innocent person, one is too many, but in real life, like stuff happens. It's horrible, but yeah. And then on top of that, hundreds out of how many people? Like it's not that many people. So I'm not saying that hundreds isn't that many people. I'm saying that like out of the death penalty, like a lot more. Uh, Non-innocent people who deserve it see justice that way than innocent people. Which again, one innocent person is too much, but then in real life, like in reality, it's going to happen occasionally. It's unfortunate, and I'm not saying that that's what it should be, but life is the way life is. So, um, and also disproportionately affect black people. So, so they say incarcerated disproportionately affects black people. Proves that she doesn't value black lives. I mean, so this whole doesn't value black lives. Like we can start talking about why hood culture and the hood and most people, like a lot of people who live in the hood, these thugs and these gangsters, they don't value black life. And then those who live in those communities who see the stuff that goes on and don't say nothing and don't snitch, they don't value black lives. So like the fact that Kamala Harris doesn't value black lives is probably a reflection of that the black community doesn't value black lives. Um, Camilla even advocated that an innocent man named Kevin Cooper who was a death row inmate had a trial that was rooted in overt racism, which I'm not even sure because the way that this is sounding and the ideology behind this person's thinking makes it unclear what they would consider racism because the goalpost is different for different people. Overt racism and corruption be executed. She advocated for this event through Kevin, or even though Kevin had DNA evidence that proved his innocence, yet Kamala Harris opposed it until the New York Times exposed the case. So, and this one I'll put down the link as well. Man, like you could not vote if a vote for Biden and Kamala Harris is a vote for against the black community. You're voting against yourselves, and then you can see like 50 Cent when he saw the the whole tax plan for Biden or was supposed to be the tax plan for Biden, like he had spoke out and said that he was voting for Trump, and then Chelsea Handler said that she had to call him and remind him that he is black. Like, what white person has to call you and remind you of black? Like, do you guys need someone to call you, another white person to call you and remind you that you're black? She's basically saying that she put him back in his place. Like that whole slave mentality. Oh, I had to remind him he was black. You know what I'm saying? It kind of reminds you like, oh, well, you can't read these books because, like, you're not allowed. Like, you're black. Like, it's that same kind of mindset. You're not allowed to think for yourselves. You're black. You have to vote for Democrats. Like, we've already decided that for you. We've set your culture and everything. So, I think, and I'm, like, this is me. I'm not a pro-Trump. I'm not really pro-Trump. But I call things how I see it. So, being able to not, like, things that I'm not personally going to vote for Trump. I'm not going to vote for Biden either. Most likely, I won't vote for Trump. But I would say if you're looking for who deserves the black vote the most, it's Trump, especially with his economic policies that did benefit blacks, and you can see that it benefited blacks. When it comes to jobs and stuff like that, that's not really a specific thing. It was that he created so many jobs that there was jobs for easier to get a job for black people, and a lot of them did because there was work, and jobs that Obama had said wouldn't come back, Trump helped bring back. So, and then The Black College Fund, he's giving more money than Obama, or I mean, a lot of presidents to the College Fund. Oh, Ice Cube, he's willing to talk to Ice Cube. The Democratic Party told Ice Cube that they would talk about it later after the election. Trump told him that he would talk about it before. He's like, yeah, we could talk about it. He's open, and I mean, even Lil Wayne. I think Lil Wayne just endorsed Trump too. Kanye West, which Kanye West and Kim Kardashian helped get the ball rolling for the bill to help fix mass incarceration, or I can't remember what it's called, but I should have had that ready before. But I had to make this video in kind of a hurry before I leave. So, but he's willing to listen, and he's proven that he's willing to listen. Um, I think he's earned your vote. And while you may hate Trump, but most of what I hear why people hate Trump is because of what people told them, not because what they actually know. They don't actually have the facts. They haven't looked at the facts. They just go with the whole brainwashing thing, just like the whole black stereotype. If you're not a thug, and people say, well, why do white people clutch their purses when like when I'm walking, and yet that one of the things is, he got arrested. That guy said the only thing that was black about it was that he got arrested. Or if you talk proper, they say you don't talk black. You talk proper. You talk white. Like, I didn't know when being educated or being able to speak relatively decent in the English language was being white. See, like, there's so many things about this stereotype that, like, it's just garbage, and it helps keep the black community, our community. It helps keep us ignorant in mental chains. So the main object of this page is to start bringing up these topics and start these conversations. I know there's other people who are doing it, but I mean, I want to be a part of that. I don't I'm not against the black community. I want to see the black community prosper. I want to see it be a righteous kingdom. I want to see peace in our communities, and I want to see us thrive. But to do that, we have to, the black community ate up this thing of giving our responsibilities to the government and not being on not taking self-responsibility and not wanting to be independent, where we need to be independent from the government. We have to have, when it comes to the economy, we got to start building our families back up. And I don't mean family reunion. I mean having marriage needs to become a cornerstone of the black community again. And sleeping around needs to be frowned upon. And at the very least, if you get someone pregnant, the two should have an obligation to stay together and raise the kid. Like, there used to be that pressure. And a lot of people say, oh, well, there's terrible stuff. Like, what if they're bad parents and they argue all the time? Like that can happen. But if the parents, it's the mindset of the parents need to change. And they need to take into account what's best for the kids. Because the kids didn't have a choice. They came into this world. And abortion, you cannot say Black Lives Matter if you abort black babies, because now you're destroying your own race. And you got to think about that. In some states, there are more black babies aborted than born. That's crazy. And you're going to tell me that you believe Black Lives Matter? Like, not these black moms that are aborting these babies. They don't believe Black Lives Matter. Not these thugs out here killing each other. They don't, and they're not even just killing each other. They're killing innocent people. They're breaking in the homes and robbing from innocent people. And you're trying to tell me they care